Hi everyone, welcome to 90 Degree Turns, where we expand the minds, beliefs, and perspectives of the collective and awaken the sleeping many. I'm your host, Trisha Margus, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Alba Weinman. Hi Alba, how are you?
Thank you for inviting me
Yeah,
here.
welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
On this show, we talk about a lot of different conscious expanding topics, and so you're involved with hypnotherapy.
Yes.
I would love it if you could tell us about you. I know that you have been in telecommunications for a while in a previous life, and then you came into hypnotherapy. So what guided you? What was the catalyst that started this journey for you?
Well, the catalyst into my spiritual journey, anyway, happened while I was in telecommunications, and it's really weird because when I was little, I used to always say I could communicate with God. There was, I didn't need a middleman, and it's weird that I fell into telecommunications where I'm communicating. But back in about 1988, I would say, I got introduced to the Seth material. Shirley MacLaine had written a book, Out on a Limb, and Ruth Montgomery. Those were the three things that really made me change. Ruth Montgomery actually did automatic writing, and that's channeling through writing. And at that time, nobody talked about this stuff. People were not awake at that time, and these were the people who were really on the leading edge. And so I wanted to learn how to do that too. My dad had died about 9 years before, and I said, wouldn't it be nice to communicate with my dad, to find out about stuff? So at that time, I took one day of transcendental meditation. And I was a very professional corporate woman. And really, when I went to that, it was not for me. It was like, this is crazy. But I said, wouldn't it be nice to use the stuff that I learned in transcendental meditation and what I learned in the book with Ruth Montgomery? Let me see if I could communicate. So I sat down with a pad and a pen, and I started doing my mantra, and all of a sudden my hands started moving, and I was, I didn't want to open my eyes because it was freaky, and my hand was going all over the paper. I knew I was writing something, but I wasn't sure what I was writing. And when I opened my eyes, all over the paper, in Spanish, because I'm Cuban, my father had written to me, I am your father, yo soy tu padre, yo soy tu padre, all over the place. And he had written his signature, and he had one of those really elaborate signatures. And I had done all of this signature over and over and over on the page. So that was like the first time that it was like, whoa, what is this? And so by using my dad as my guide, I started doing this every day. And I started asking him questions like, what happened when you died? Like what happened? And my dad started telling me stories from the other side. So he was a really mischievous guy. And for example, he was a prankster and very mischievous. And so like the day of his death, we took the funeral procession, left all of the flowers on his grave. And we were kind of sitting around, my family and I, saying, like, why should those flowers rot on the grave? Let's just take them home. And so we took a bunch of flowers home. We said, we want to honor Dad in our home with the flowers. And so in the writing, he says, I was so proud of you for taking all the flowers. I would have done the same thing. I was urging you on to do that because, they were going to die.
Yeah, might as well enjoy them.
So that was the kind of stuff. We started talking about just personal stuff. And, months went by, and finally he said to me, I need to go to school now. And I was like, school? You're a spirit. And he said, no, I need to go to school. There's school here. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of that. And he says, but I'm going to have you talk to your personal guide, and he will move you on from here.
So you're going to pass the torch.
Yeah, pass the torch. And
thank you so much, but yes, I have got to go.
I got to go to school. So then I started connecting with my personal guide. His name is Arthur. And he started kind of coaching me.
In the same method.
Same method, but a little different handwriting. And Arthur was just kind of like my coach, my mentor. He just kind of helped me. Every time I had a problem, I would write it out and he would help me. But after a while, then Arthur says, I'm done. and we now need to graduate you to the master teachers.
And this was in writing.
Yeah, this was all in writing. It was all in writing.
So it's like even more proof.
Yes, it was like it was channeling on paper.
Wow.
So he says, Arthur said, no, now you need to speak with teachers. And I started getting communication, which is a much higher level, which is strange. And at one point I said, who is writing to me?
It's a valid question.
Who's writing to me? And he says, well, when I was alive, they called me Jesus. And I was floored. It was like, no, I'm not worthy, because I wasn't religious, but I didn't feel that Jesus should be talking to me.
There's some heavy programming around it too. I mean,
well, it was just the fact that I never went to church, and it was like, why is Jesus, helping me out? Because I didn't go to church. And so he started teaching me about the law of attraction. And so he would tell me things that I never really heard about. And at that time, my car was having trouble, and he goes, you want a new car? Describe to me what you want. Write it down. Tell me every detail of this car, what you want. Do you want power steering? Do you want, not power steering, but power windows? Do you want a sunroof? What color do you want? And I'm going, no, this can't be. Because there was no such thing as law of attraction out there. This is way before that. And I said, well, this is what I want. And within 2 weeks, my car really broke down. And I went to the dealer, and that's the first car I saw. And it was like, oh, this is amazing. So from that, and I was still in the closet of all this because I was in telecom, very professional field. And, you don't talk about this stuff. And so from there, I started doing life coaching. I fell into life coaching. And I figured with all of the stuff that I was learning, let me, help other people. And people would come up to me all the time and say, they'd say, hey, doctor, can you, give me an appointment? And it was like, whatever. So I'd coach people. So I said, I could actually make some money doing this. So I started doing life coaching in the evenings while I was still getting all the messages. And at that time, and this was like 2007, what my guide said to me, you're going to be taking this, you're going to be world renowned. People are going to know your name all around the world. And I'm thinking, come on, I'm no Tony Robbins. How can I do this? This is, nah. And I said, you're like smoking crack, Jesus, No. And he says, no, it's going to happen. And I'm thinking, how? I'm in telecommunications. I'm doing coaching at night.
It's a leap.
That's way too exaggerated. So I kept doing this coaching at night, and I really loved it because I saw results. But what was really bothering me is that I couldn't get into the person's soul. And that was what I put out into the universe. It's like, I know that what I'm doing is getting good results, but I'm not getting into their soul. Well, when you put something out into the universe, it happens. Yeah. So, I was still doing this. And really strange things started to happen. My world started falling apart. And, be careful what you ask for. And at that time, my teenage son was living with me. And I wanted to be closer to him. But teenage boys are out with their girlfriends, and they're out partying, and mom is just an afterthought. And I said, it'd be great to really get to know my son a lot more, to bond with him before he goes to college. Be careful what you ask for. During that time, really weird stuff had started happening. Cats were being killed in our neighborhood, and dogs were killing these cats. But somebody decided that some of these cats were being killed by a person. And so they pinned it on my son, and he was arrested. He was arrested for something he didn't do. And he was under house arrest for 17 months. And, I'm thinking to myself, there's something really weird here because, I'm following the law of attraction. I'm coaching people, telling them, if you have good thoughts, good things are going to happen to you. And if you're a good person and you know what you want, you're going to get it. And I realized, something is wrong here because I'm a good person. This is a good family. We don't have bad thoughts. How can this horrific thing happen? And it was headline news all over the world. He was known as a serial cat killer. And my son loved animals. He's like the last person you'd think would harm an animal. And I said, something is really wrong. Why is this happening? But then I thought again, as this was going on, I said, who else could have handled it? My son handled it beautifully. I was able to handle it. I said, if anybody else, this would have happened to them, they wouldn't have made it through this. But during that process, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people, and I learned a lot about internet bullying and what goes on, and how if you repeat the same lie over and over again, it becomes real. So I learned a lot, and I learned not to judge people because bad things happen to good people, and you don't know why. It could be a contract that you're having to fulfill. So I learned a lot about just being a better human being through this. And eventually my son was exonerated. They found out that the dogs were killing these cats. It was just a predator thing, normal stuff. And it bonded us, which is what...
You got to spend time with your
I
son.
got to
like
spend
you
time.
asked.
Yeah, it was court ordered. We had to actually meet every Wednesday at 6. So we got to bond, and he got to appreciate life and freedom more and family more.
I can only imagine.
He got to understand what unconditional love was really all about. We did too. You would do anything for your son, anything. And so after that, my life changed. But the problem is that when you go through something like this, there's anger that builds up inside. It's still unfair. And I had a lot of anger. I knew that anger would turn into cancer if I didn't get it out. So what I did is I signed up for a kickboxing class.
All right, yeah, just punch it out.
Punch out, kick out, and get all that frustration out. And it did. After a while, I didn't see those people's faces on the bag anymore. I really got it out. And it was, after a while, it was like, I'm done with this. I'm good. But what happened is that my body was getting injured. And I don't get injured doing stuff. I'm not the kind of person who breaks arms and things. And I got tendonitis, so I couldn't do push-ups anymore. I broke my toe falling over my dog. Strange stuff. And I said, you guys are trying to kill me, telling me a message. I don't get it. So I'm icing my body lying there, looking through my iPad just to pass the time because, I had to ice all my injuries. And there was Dolores Cannon. And Dolores Cannon, I'd never seen her before. I'd never heard of her before. And she was talking about this hypnosis. Her method is the quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT. And I went, that's the next logical step. She's getting into people's soul.
Perfect.
And that was how I got there. That was the major catalyst, from Telecom to coaching to the hypnosis. And I was still doing Telecom this whole time. I loved Telecom. I felt like I had won the lottery in life. It was like my ideal job. I loved everything about it. I was good at it. I used to do all the recordings for the company I used to work for. So that's where I developed the voice, doing press 1, press 2. That's how I developed it. And I loved my job. But once I started doing hypnosis, it was just a different world. and I was able to get into people's soul. So I was able to use my experiences of having gone through post-traumatic stress disorder from the arrest, and my life being totally, I lost everything. I lost my home. I lost everything. From going from that, I realized, I think I needed all of that so I could be a better human being, so I wouldn't be judgmental. And when someone comes to me now, having gone through horrific things, it's like, okay, I can't judge them because you don't know why you're going through that. Mm-hmm. You may need to go through that to help other people. So I felt that was the catalyst.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean, you took leaps, especially with the automatic writing at first. Like, was that easy for you to kind of get into that?
It was easy.
Were you open to that and kind of had to step your way all the way to the, like...
I spent at least 20 some odd years doubting it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, every time I'd write something, it would be, yeah, right. And my guides would always say, why do you doubt? Why are you doubting this? And it's like, sorry,
I just am. Like, yeah.
When I first finally kind of accepted the fact that there was such thing as automatic writing, like that other people did it, was when the Conversation with God books came out with Neil Donald Walsh.
Those are my favorite books.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, I'm not crazy. Somebody else is doing this.
Mm-hmm. And he made it pretty big. I mean,
and he made it really big.
Yeah.
So when I would do the automatic writing, even though I still doubted, because there was nothing out there. There was no internet at that time. There was nothing out there to research. All I had was those Ruth Montgomery books and the Seth books, but I never really knew of anybody else who did this. And we were all in the closet. My generation was all in the closet. So, you had nobody to talk to about this. You just did it and you hid it from people. And one of the things that I didn't mention, which was very important for me, was that I used to do my automatic writing and I used to hide it in my bedroom drawers because I didn't want anybody to see it. When I was married, I didn't want my husband seeing it. I didn't want my son to see this stuff. So I used to always hide my automatic writing. But those journals contained everything. It contained stuff from my life coaching. It contained my own personal journals that you just talk about your stuff. And when my son was arrested that evening, they took all my journals as evidence. And I think as bad as my son being arrested, this was horrific too because they had stolen my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I suffered so much knowing that somebody else was reading my thoughts. It was like
private. They're crossing a big line for who you are.
Yeah. But, and I suffered and I asked my attorney, please get them back, please get them back. And we ended up having to buy them because they were going to be submitted as part of the trial. And so we had to buy my own automatic writing. I didn't know what was in there because when I write, I don't remember what I write. I just put it in a drawer and I get a new page and write and put it in a drawer. It's almost like a download and then I just put it away. So I didn't know what they had. Wow. I had no idea what they were reading and I was terrified. So when we bought them and I started reading them, it was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good, yeah. And my guides, that's when they started. They said, you have to release these. These are not for you. These are for the world. And I'm going, what? No, you wrote this for me. Mm-hmm. This is my stuff. And they said, no, you have to release these. And I was like, no, I'm not releasing this. You have to release them.
Especially with the time period, whenever you said everyone was in the closet to do that.
Yeah, and this is during when my son was under house arrest. You have to release these. No. And it was constant. We were fighting, my guides and I were fighting with each other. And I said, okay. And I used to have a mailing list with thousands of people that I used to send out inspiring quotes every morning. All over the world. I didn't know who these people were, but They were just followed me, and I sent out inspiring quotes with affirmations. And I said, let me test something. Let me just send out one of these writings to my thousands of subscribers and see how it goes. And I said, if you want to subscribe to see more of these, let me know. And I actually got people saying, oh, this is great. Who would have known, right? And I kept thinking, but they're for me. These were my writings. And they started saying, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. So I said, you know what? Let me just put it out on Facebook. So I created a Facebook page and started putting out some of these writings. And I would get back people saying, this is exactly what I needed to hear. So I realized we're all one.
Absolutely.
What I'm asking is the same thing you're asking. And when my guides, God, whatever it is, speaks to me, it's your answer too. So as I started putting these out, I realized these were really for the world. And had that not happened, I could not have put out the videos.
Wow.
So I realized that the videos were not really for me or for my client. They were channeling for everyone. So that's why when somebody watches a video of mine, it resonates because we're all going through the same thing. So all of this is all tied up together.
That's so beautiful.
Isn't that wild?
It's beautiful too, because you can see with your own life, like how everything is so intricately connected,
right? And
meant to be for something more than just, oh, this awful thing happened to me, and now I'm gonna suffer from it. No, I'm gonna grow from it, and really take what I can, even though it's probably pretty awful sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And you can look at the videos you have. So many people watch them, you know.
So many.
And I'm sure the mailing list, I'm sure everyone loves them too, you know. It expanded more than a life of its own.
Yeah.
Which is, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to share. And thank you for doing the work you do.
But it's like,
you know,
sometimes we suffer because we don't understand the higher picture. So when we talk about the law of attraction and why this thing happened, my soul plan had included having to go through all this because I needed to release this stuff. I needed to learn about judgment and non-judgment and PTSD and all of these things that now when someone comes to me, I feel so not detached, non-judgmental, because I realize even if you're suffering, your soul chose to go through this to grow, to evolve. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's not easy. You can't say to somebody, oh, relax, don't suffer so much, because part of that, I lived it and it was horrible. I wouldn't wish that to any human being to go through that, but look at the growth. It's amazing.
And we can never really grow when we're completely comfortable either, you know?
No.
When you're in a comfortable place, you just want to sit there. This is cozy, this is nice. But once we step out of that, or get kind of pushed into things, okay.
So now when I look at those writings from 2007, and it says your name, you're going to be known around the world, it's like, oh yeah, but that was not what I was expecting.
The way it happened.
No, that was really the rough road to get there. But that was my own personal journey, and it's made me such a different human being. Mm. So I was always laid back about stuff, but now I realize it's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. It's such a personal story. So
but
I know someone in our audience will resonate with it.
Yeah, so if you're going through something really tough, there's always a bigger issue, a bigger message for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew,
So that was a long answer to that one question.
But thank you. I appreciate, because you really got into the depth of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful to hear just the flow of what you had to go through.
Yeah.
So then going into you studied QHHT.
Yes.
You saw Dolores Cannon.
Yes.
I've read many of her books. Like, she's an amazing.
Yes.
She was an amazing person.
Yes.
So for people who may not be familiar with
Yes.
hypnosis,
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective, you know a lot of different modalities.
Yes.
How would you describe hypnosis, especially maybe for someone who may have religious programming, or they don't know?
Okay. Well, you know, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. First of all, you're in a state of hypnosis a lot. You're in a state of trance. But if you really want to describe it, and you have two sides of your brain. Okay, you've got your analytical part, which is the thinking part. Let me figure it out. Let me analyze it. No, I don't think this is right. Or it's the part that's always making comments. Your ego. Okay. And then there's the creative side. And this creative side is the part that daydreams and paints and writes, and it's a very creative side. Imagination. This is how you create your life, through that side. And that part is also the subconscious mind. That's the part that stores things. And as you're growing up, it's storing things there. Now, for you to get to that subconscious mind, to all of the files that have been stored in there since you were little, the ego doesn't let you go to anything that's kind of hard to swallow, okay? Maybe things happened to you when you were little, programming and things like that. And so you have what we call, it's like a gatekeeper. It's called the critical factor in hypnosis. And that's like, for you to get to the programming of your computer, you need a password. Mm-hmm. So that critical factor is not going to allow you to get into the files of your subconscious mind. So let's say that something happened to you when you were 3 years old and it's scary. The conscious mind is not going to go there. The subconscious is going to keep it safe. So in hypnosis, what we do, using different methods, is to kind of distract that gatekeeper. Kind of like, and the old way was,
the classic watch.
Look at the watch. So you're actually doing something to distract the conscious mind to get through to that gatekeeper and get into the subconscious mind.
Fascinating. And I know that you and Antonio are hosting a workshop here. We're in North Carolina. And so I got to see a little bit of it today. And I thought it was very fascinating, the methods you guys use. Because, there's no watch, but there's other modalities where you get to, like you said, you get to distract that conscious mind so you can kind of open the door of the subconscious and bring that to the surface.
So once you have bypassed that critical factor, which is the gatekeeper, whatever you say now becomes reality. So that's when the hypnotist starts putting suggestions in. If that's, maybe you've gone to one for stopping smoking or things like that, you want to work with that. So what we do in hypnosis is we find the origin of when things began. So for example, let's say that you have a pain in your arm, or just silly stuff. You have a pain and you don't know where that pain is coming from. So we will bypass that critical factor, go into your subconscious mind and tell you to go find the origin of that. And it could be something as simple as when you were little, I'm just making this up, your mother, your father said that you were useless, that you didn't do things well or something, and maybe they slapped your hand and hurt you. Okay? So now whenever you are feeling that you're not doing well enough, this pain comes back up. That's just an example, okay? Where you're storing that and it becomes like a trigger. So that's like your normal hypnosis. We go back to the origin of when things began. And then when you relive that and you see it as an adult, then you realize, that was when I was a child. I don't need to have that anymore.
It doesn't serve you anymore.
Doesn't serve you anymore. So then we change the perception of it, and you don't need that pain anymore. So that's just a simple way of describing it. But we go in and out of hypnosis all the time. You pay money to go to a movie. And those are actors, but you're crying and you're laughing and you're sitting on the screen going, whoa. That you put yourself into that state. And there's many times when you're driving your car and you get home and you say like, how did I get here? I don't remember the trip. That's called highway hypnosis. You have put yourself into a state of trance. You're still driving. You know how to drive. If you had to slam on your brakes, you would, but your mind is somewhere else. So we know how to go in and out of hypnosis. The scary thing is when you know this and you look around and everybody else is in trance too. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. We put ourselves into that state. The hypnotist just kind of pushes us,
kind of guides
you into that state, Many different methods. So hypnosis is a very natural state. You're not sleeping, you're wide awake, you know what's going on, but you're in an altered state. That's it.
Well, see, that doesn't sound scary at all when you say it that
No.
way. Because when you see movies like Get Out or something, they make it it was a scary movie, but they make it seem like you're going to sink to the couch and then off you go and you can't find your way back, So I think it's very comforting.
Yeah.
To hear that
Exactly.
you're conscious.
You're conscious, you're totally in control. If you're not going to be doing things that you don't feel you should be doing. If somebody asks you to do something and it's against your will, you can't control them to do it. They have to want to be hypnotized. Yeah. So you're awake, you're aware. It's a very natural state. And most people, I would say most people remember everything that goes on.
Wow. What would be an instance that someone wouldn't remember something? Is it just a truly traumatic?
It could be traumatic, but there's a small percentage of the population that do go into a very deep state and they don't remember anything. Or you could be doing a session with someone and they go into a very violent scene in their life. So their own subconscious mind will choose to not allow them to remember that after their session. We'll have healed it, but then it's like, we don't need this anymore, flush the toilet. Yeah. And you don't need to remember that anymore. We've taken care of it. So those are the instances, Okay. So not everybody is going to go into a state of forgetting what they went through.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So I'd like to know, when you're guiding the hypnosis session, do you feel a presence of like your own guides, or what goes on for you when you're guiding? Because with the
automatic writing,
you mentioned that you would be surprised what you'd find on the paper, right?
Right.
What happens now? You're not writing. You're verbally talking the clients through.
When I have a client in front of me, I put myself into a hypnotic state too, because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I put myself into a state of my own trance with them. So as I'm doing exercises with them, I'm actually putting myself into trance. And, as I said, the more you do this, the easier it gets. So I'm putting myself into the state of trance to allow my own higher self, whatever you want to call that, your inner guidance, the God within, that voice guides me. I have no idea what I'm going to say next. It's just coming out. And I'm as surprised as anybody else at what comes out, because I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm just guiding them as if I was reading a book and wanted to know what happens next. But the funny thing is that it is my higher self who is actually speaking through this. I've been told that there's a huge crowd around me while this is happening, but only my higher self is the one speaking. I'm not channeling any other guides or anything. and your higher self is you. Okay. So there are times where I am doing a session, and my ego is kind of sitting on the side, going like, "Where are we going with this?"
Trying to analyze.
Where are we going with this? Like, why do we take this turn? And, I keep talking. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And it's like, my ego's like, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. How did that happen? Because it's kind of like I'm in two places at one time. And then there are times I'm asking a question or I'm saying something, and I don't finish the sentence. I'll stop in mid-sentence. And my ego is saying like, are you going to finish that? And it's like my higher self's like, nope.
I guess not.
They got it. Or I'll speak like Yoda, where I'll switch words around. And again, the commentary of my ego is like, oh, that didn't sound right, But since we're in sync, me and my client, it seems to work.
And as long as it's working for them and
It's
they understand you, right? Ultimately,
Yes.
they're getting the healing they need.
Exactly. So sometimes I ask my clients to do something where my ego is actually questioning, like, really? Why that? But it's because it's just flowing through me. I don't know what I'm going to say next. It just happens. And I'm visualizing what's happening too, so I'm seeing things, and I'll be asking questions because I've seen something and they haven't said it. So, is there something on your head? Because I've seen a top hat or something, and I know there's something there. So, it's kind of like a collaboration. Wow. So that's how I do my sessions. It is channeled, and we're all channeling our higher selves. I mean,
we're just vessels.
we're just empty vehicles here, and our higher self is the one who speaks through us. So,
wow,
we're just connecting to that higher level. Yeah. So that's how I do my sessions. That's the guidance that I get.
And so, do you visually see anything like a being around you? Or
no,
anything?
I don't see anything.
Because I do know others sometimes they see things,
No.
so you can kind of get a download of like, oh, I see a top hat or something, and the words will flow through.
Well, as far as seeing what they're seeing in their session, I will see what they're describing. Okay, just like the viewers are watching, they're also imagining, but I don't see any beings around me or anything like that. I freak out. They know how much to give me.
It's completely understandable.
No, don't show me weird people around. I would freak out if I knew my room was full of all sorts of weird, beings.
See, that's the human part of all of this. Like,
No.
We all still have our fight or flight response.
No,
we don't have to see everything that comes through.
No, people are always like, I want to open up my third eye, and to me, it's like I'm good enough. I'm good. I don't want to see anything walking through walls.
I don't know how I'd react to if I saw that. I don't know if I'm ready just yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, could you tell me, has there been anything as you've progressed and done so many sessions? Has there been things that you just did not accept, let's say in the first, 20 sessions that now you're like, oh, this is completely normal.
Well,
and it's your normal has just shifted.
Yes. The first time that I was shocked was when I had a client that said that they were actually channeling Source, channeling God. And it was right at the beginning. And I started crying, but I didn't want my client to know. So I was like crying with my mouth open so I wouldn't clog up my nose. And I that was one of the things. It's like, I can't believe that this is happening, that I'm connecting with the Source. And it was a beautiful experience. So that was the first one. That was the first thing that I experienced. And then, of course, mermaids and Sasquatch and things like that. I had a session in which I was a Sasquatch.
Really?
Yes. So I didn't believe in that. I thought that was a myth. And
many people do.
Yes. So I saw myself as this huge, I called it humongous, being with lots of hair, and I had heard of Bigfoot, but I never really looked into it. And in that video, I'm laughing hysterically for about 4 minutes because I'm like in shock. And that's one of my first videos. And after that, it changed, it shifted everything. So those sessions, the one with Source was one, and the Sasquatch. And the one with Source was really funny because in my automatic writing, I wrote to my guides and I says, it'd be kind of interesting to get some interesting sessions. Why don't you give me some interesting sessions? And they said, you can't even handle talking to God. Why are we going to give you anything else? We know what to give you. So I was like, okay.
Oh, that's so great.
And at that time, it was really funny because I felt very comfortable with the spiritual world, but I was very uncomfortable with the UFO, ET, anything having to do with ETs. I want nothing to do with that.
Interesting.
Nothing to do. So I would say to my guides, no ET stuff. Don't give me any ET stuff. And that was Dolores Cannon's specialty. And I said, well, she loves that stuff, but don't give me anything like that. And I didn't have anything like that for a long time until I had a client, and she says, I have some ringing in my ear. And so, I asked in the session, what's going on? Why is all this ringing? They said, well, we got her up on the ship. We're working on her. What ship? The ship. She's up on our ship and we're working on her. Yeah. And I was, really? And so they described it, and she was good afterwards. And when she left, it was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. You can send me some more. Send me some more of that.
Yeah,
that was good. That was good. That was okay. That wasn't too scary. So little by little, I was being given levels of more freaky stuff, like stuff that would be scary for me.
You would be uneasy with, yeah.
Yes, and then after a while, it was like, whatever, bring it on.
Whatever needs to come through, all right?
Bring it on. But it took me a while to get to that comfort zone of being able to handle, that stuff. Because the ET stuff was something that I was very uncomfortable with.
It makes me want to ask you then, what did you think of angels and other things before you did these sessions? Because couldn't they technically be an alien entity?
I didn't really, like archangels, I didn't believe in that stuff. I didn't believe in any of that stuff. So to me, people would talk to me, oh, Archangel Michael, and it was like, come on. Because I didn't buy that. I didn't buy it until I started experiencing it. And people would then say to me, Archangel Michael is working next to you. Really? Okay. And Archangel Raphael is my clients are the ones who taught me. As I kept getting more and more and more clients, they were teaching me about the spirit world and the ET world.
Wow.
I wasn't out researching this stuff. I'm not a researcher.
It just came to you.
It was coming to me. Whatever I needed to know would come to me. So if I had a question about something, my clients would bring that to me.
And that's perfect with the law of attraction, right? Because wherever you vibrate at, you get the match, right? So if you're ready to kind of level up a little bit, okay, we'll start with a ship.
And that was weird.
From there.
And that was weird for me because I was specifically told, in 2006, I read the book Communion. I think it was 2006, 2007. And my guide specifically told me, do not read any more of that stuff. And I was like, really? And they said, no more. Because you're going to attract it. And I had been contacted by a group who wanted to have me channel through them. And through my automatic writing. And they said, all you have to do is set up a camera and we'll channel through you. We want to tell the world about all this stuff, technology and everything. And it was like, no, I'm not doing this. I said, no. And so my guides kind of stepped up and said, no, don't let them in.
But did you also like intuitively feel that maybe this wasn't for you?
Right.
It's just like, it's okay.
No,
Okay.
I don't want to do this. Okay. So I think that was kind of like a test to see if I would go in that direction, but I wasn't ready for that. I had to go a different path. So my guide specifically said, no,
okay,
let's stop you here because you need to go this direction.
There's a
different
tangent you got to go.
Yes, we have to go this way. So many things have happened in my life like that you're going in one direction and it's like, no, not yet.
I think that's like the nature of life, though. I mean, even in my own life, I'm like, oh, I think this is the right way, and then doors close or certain ones open. I'm like, oh, and now looking back with hindsight, I'm like,
you understand?
Oh, this makes sense.
Right.
This makes it all it clicks together. It's just like a connect the dot game.
Yes.
Except I don't really know what the next steps are, but it all happens in the right way.
Yeah.
You know, the way it's supposed to happen. So I'd love to know then with the sessions that you do, is there a time where people don't transition to a past life, but they are in their present life, like into a memory of like a trauma or even just like a happy memory, like from childhood that they have to learn something from?
Most of my sessions are not on YouTube. Most of my sessions are not on YouTube. So the sessions that people are watching are the ones that really could be shared with the world because it's something about all of us, you know, or something interesting that's informative. But most of my sessions have to do with things that happen in this life. And sometimes we'll piggyback into different lives while we're doing this because it's the same people in different lives. But, you know, I'm a hypnotherapist. You know, people are going to come to me that wouldn't be able to go to someone else that's not trained. So, you know, I always say you got to clean up your own house before you start playing in the past lives.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right?
Yeah.
You need to figure out what's going on here because you got to clean up this. You got to deal with the mom and dad issues or, you know, big brother bullying me, things like that. That's what you have to deal with.
So would you consider that would be more kind of surface level, like the tip of the iceberg, before being able to go deeper into past lives?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So a lot of people who are not trained to go to present lives may not have a successful session because that person can't get past the trauma of this life. They're not going to be allowed to see another life without taking care of this.
Which is like the next step. You
right.
Like you said, clean the house
Clean up your house. Clean up your room before you go play.
Before you get to the really deep stuff.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing that we have so much potential as just as human beings. Like even today I was watching you guys do these the exercises, right? And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, wow, we are just working with energy and all this stuff right in real time. Like this is if people think of, oh, there's going to be a new earth, like you can already live it in this moment. Like depending on where you're vibrating on. We are living
all of our lifetimes simultaneously.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a past life, really. We call it a past life, but it's not. Our life is almost like if you take a DVD, everything is right there. And depending on where you put the laser is where you can see that life. So whatever is happening in your life is really affecting all of your lives. Whatever's happening in another life is affecting you now. And then you have yourself living so many multi-dimensional selves in the now. So it just goes on and on, the possibilities.
Lots of layers.
So many possibilities. But we, you know, we kind of say like when you're like a server. If you know much about technology, you're like a server. And let's think of all of your lives as little computers hanging off your server. So if you have a virus in one of the computers, it's going to affect the server, which would then affect all the computers. So what we do in this hypnosis technique is that we find the origin of where this little virus is. We take care of it, so then it cleans up all of the the lives. Make sense?
Oh, that's so great.
So
it sounds almost magical.
So we're like the antivirus.
You guys are the antivirus for trauma and whatever else needs to be cleared.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So have you ever encountered like a trigger that someone has that can't be cleared for some reason? Or that like, how do you know when something's cleared? That's a two-part question there.
Well, triggers can be something from like a childhood trauma or something. And what we would do is we would have them relive that so they could understand what it was.
With the emotions too?
Yeah, you're reliving it. But then what you do is you start to have them run the program over again and make changes. And there's many different techniques. You could run it backwards. You can run it forwards. You can start deleting things. It's like a program where you can make changes. So let's say that you would, I'm just going to give you an example. You've had a really traumatic experience. Well, we could always use a technique to, let's go fast forward through it. Okay, and just see everything in fast forward. Okay, let's back it up and do it backwards. Now, but when you go backwards, you have a different beginning. So you're actually like clearing.
I'm just editing it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden the person's like,
doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother me. There's many different techniques that you can do to change triggers, or change things. And then we could also put in a trigger so then if something's happening. But we like to have them relive it and then change the program themselves. Because you're like a biocomputer. Mm-hmm. You really are. You've been programmed, so you can deprogram it. You can make changes.
Yeah.
As long as you can find where it is.
You have to find the source of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can go on and on because some people are fractured. And then you have to find that piece that's been fractured. So it can get really deep.
Can I ask if you've ever, this was not something I was going to ask you, but this is super interesting. Have you ever worked with someone who's been like MK Ultra? Or
no, I have not personally.
Okay.
I put that out as I don't really want to do that.
Okay.
There's people who specialize in that. And I'm particular, and I think everybody should be. Whatever you feel that you are good at, I think that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And there are people who are really excellent at working with MK Ultra, the fractionalized soul, and things like that. And people who are experts at alien abductions. Go to them because that's their specialty. They've done hundreds, thousands of them, and that's what they do. So if someone comes to me, I do my best, but I don't ask for those cases because that's not what my message is to the world. My message is I'm a hypnotherapist for those on the path of spiritual awakening.
Okay, and that's your thing.
That's my thing. I'm here to be the trumpet for the world to awaken them.
It's beautiful. Thank you for playing the trumpet.
Yeah. That's what I requested. I requested to be an instrument of God.
So wonderfully worded too.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I want to do. I want to be able to reach the masses with this information so that they can awaken, to empower them, to awaken others. It's kind of like a domino effect.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with these videos.
Yeah.
I mean, I had originally done them to get over my own personal fears of being on camera, and now people like them. So I'm like, great, I'm glad we can all learn from this experience because I'm learning from you, everyone's learning from each other. So thank you also for being here, viewers.
Yeah.
So just a few more questions here. Have you ever encountered someone who they went through a session, they seem to have cleared things, it seemed positive, and then they're like, I just made this whole thing up.
Oh.
Like they just thought this is the crazy stroke of imagination.
All the time. You have people saying that while they're experiencing this. Because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, it's not sleep. It feels like a daydream. It feels like you're making it all up. We are that good at being able to split ourselves to where we're watching something and receiving stuff. So, of course, it's their expectations. They expect to be knocked out like a dream. Mm. They expect to be sleeping. And they're not sleeping. They're wide awake, just commenting on what it is that they're imagining, because that's what it feels like. It feels like your imagination. That's the part of your mind that you're accessing. So, of course, it feels like imagination. But really, we have no original thought anyway. We are receiving data all the time. So what we think is a brilliant idea is not ours. We've downloaded it from somewhere. So all these people who say that they're making it all up. Oh no, I wasn't hypnotized. I made it all up. That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like.
So in those cases, do you try to let them know like this was truly you, or do you kind of let them kind of go in their own journey?
You can't force anybody to believe anything. You know, what we like to say and what Dolores Cannon would say, and why would you make that up?
Of all the things, true.
So why would you make that up? Right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But when someone is in a state of allowing, and there's something that they've learned from this. So whether it's your imagination, whether it's a metaphor, whatever it is, you are being given information. Take it and digest it.
Maybe even years down the line, they'll look back.
Exactly.
There's always a point that things will get processed.
When I was seeing this Sasquatch, myself in a Sasquatch body, it was like, this is crazy. I'm making this all up. And then later I thought, like, I don't even know about Sasquatch.
I mean, have you ever seen Sasquatch in real life, even
No.
after that session?
No.
There's some cool places out in the Pacific
I know.
Northwest.
I know.
Have you heard that?
Yes.
That there's activity out there.
Yes,
I
I
haven't
know.
seen one in person either.
No.
I've had some interesting interactions, but that's awesome.
Yeah. So you're always going to get people saying, I made it all up, because that's how it feels. Because you are awake.
Yeah.
You're not sleeping.
And when you compare it to maybe like other substances out there, it's different. It's
different.
not the same as like
No.
a hallucinogen where you're like, oh,
No.
I see all this. It's
Different.
a different, like a box. It's a completely different
It's different.
thing that you would experience.
And every experience is different.
Wow.
So you can be, you know, in my own personal sessions, which I've had, I actually get up from my chair and walk around. So I'm that conscious. I may have my eyes closed, but I can intuit what people are thinking and look like, even with my eyes closed, because I'm in a trance state. But at the same time, I'm seeing the overlay of this other world, and I'm playing out that part. While at the same time, my ego is saying, they're going to think you're crazy walking around like this. And I'm still acting out the part, crying and whatever it is that's happening. So you are in two different places at one time.
I just love that because it shows how multidimensional we are.
We are.
Like we are humans here, but there's so many parts of us. As
Yes.
you were saying, we're in so many different places and layers at one time.
Exactly.
And this is just like a fraction of who Alba is. Like this is just a piece of a much larger,
Little sliver.
much larger picture.
Yes.
You know, that's fascinating. So I would love to know then, have you ever had like an overlapping sessions that for you, like that you'd see one person another and you didn't know how they connected, but then when you look back after maybe doing, I don't know, a handful of sessions, that something clicked and you're like, wow, I understand this concept or a topic on a completely different level?
Well, some of my clients are really over the top about information, but I've had situations where one client after another is almost experiencing the same thing. And I'm thinking, didn't I just have this session? And it's a totally different, and it could be two different countries that I'll be in. And it's like, wait a minute, I was just here. This is the same thing. That's happened to me.
Wow.
Which is not the answer to your question, but that just came to me. And yeah, people will be talking about things. But Tricia, what's really interesting is that we're all living different realities. Okay? So what's true for one person may not be true for another person. So what I have found out in doing all of these sessions is that whatever is true for my client is the truth for them. I'm not going to interject my belief system or what I think is going to happen or things, because they're receiving that information based on their belief system, their reality, where they are. Okay? And somebody may be in a totally different realm. Okay? So as a hypnotist, I will go along with my subjects as if I've never heard this before.
A blank slate.
Blank slate.
That's very fair.
I'm not going to say, oh, well, my other client said this. that's none of their business. That's not their session. I will get the story from them as it is. Now, there are some clients that I have that are way over the top, and they're there for just information purposes. Then we could talk about stuff like that. But most of my clients, I go in there, whatever their belief system is, we go in there. If they're Muslims and believe one thing, if they're Sikh and they believe that, if they're who they believe in, we bring them in. I don't bring in, for example, I'm not going to bring in archangels to someone who doesn't follow a religion that believes in it. Okay? I may bring in Shiva, or I may bring somebody else. The fact is, you use whatever it is that they believe in, because these are the deities or the spirits that they're praying to. Mm-hmm. That's their people.
They have a connection.
They have a connection with them.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's how I conduct my sessions. Is blank slate. I'm not going to pump them from information from me. I pump them in for information for themselves. Like I said, I'm not a researcher. I'm here to just help them, not to be, not to tell people what the truth is of the world. Let them figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everyone has their own perspective.
Exactly.
And they're shaped by their own lives, and no one can ever live the same life.
No,
it's just impossible.
Not even in your own family.
No, definitely not.
Right?
Yeah, we're all very, very unique,
very different
in our own journeys.
Exactly.
So I would love to ask one more question before we will have to end. But
sure.
I'd love to know about karma.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, from your understanding, I mean, people have past lives, right?
Yeah.
Which we call past lives, but they are certainly happening at this moment.
Yes.
What is karma in your eyes, from what you've experienced and understood?
Karma is a balancing of experiences. That's the simplest way. Some people would say karma is you're bringing in things that really affected you in a different lifetime. And karma could be as simple as bringing in a skill from another life. It's not always like a bad thing. It's something that impressed you from a life. So let's say that in one lifetime you were a serial killer. Okay? It doesn't have to be, it could be a soldier that just killed people, that's what they did. So as a soul, we want to experience everything. That's what we come here for. We come to experience life. We are part of the Creator. And so as part of the Creator wants to experience everything through us. So a part of our evolution is to experience. So this person is a serial killer. So in another lifetime, they want to feel the opposite. They want to know what it feels like to have the effect of someone killing off their people or killing them. How did that affect the families of these people that you killed? So they will choose a life and say, please, you next time you do this to me. Because I want to feel that. Because we want to experience everything.
Understand it more. That's the only way
That's how we
can.
evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So karma is the balancing of it. And in some of my recent videos, I've had that where one person has experienced something and then in another lifetime, it's the total opposite. Because they needed to experience that.
And so would those be like soul contracts, or
it would be,
or the soul's just curious, like let's get the other side of the spectrum.
They make contracts. You do make contracts with other souls to say, would you, or you even volunteer. I love you so much. I'll kill you next time.
I want you to experience
this. Yes, and you'll say, please do that. Please, I know you love me. Let me experience that. So. It sounds ridiculous.
It sounds so funny, but I understand.
But that's what the soul wants to experience everything. It's like a big amusement park, the drama. We love drama, you know that. That's why people watch soap operas or where they watch sports. They love the drama.
It's dramatic.
It's dramatic. Mm-hmm. And we love the suffering. We love the emotions. We love to feel all of the emotions. We don't like it when it's happening to us. But as a soul, this earth allows us to experience all of these things. So when we come into this earth, we want to feel it all. And so, that's how you evolve as a spirit, to understand this is what we're doing. We're experiences until you don't need to experience it anymore. Until you can say, okay, I don't need the drama anymore. I feel like I've evolved enough.
Wow.
But that's something that it's not like, okay, I don't want to experience this anymore. I'm done. It's not like that. You actually get to a point where you've detached enough from the human experience that you've become so much one with God that you realize it's just like a big game. And I could just observe it and see it as an outsider. I can help people with it, but I don't get
involved.
You don't get really involved with the emotions. It's like, like you'll see things happening in the world. It's like, okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. When you can watch the news and go, okay, and not get affected by it.
You're an advanced Sullivan.
Well, or pretty cold.
Yeah, one or the other. I still sometimes get irritated.
Yeah, you have to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
When I was going through all of the issues with the case, with my son's case, I used to always get messages. See things from God's perspective.
Yeah.
Look at things from a helicopter view. Look at how this is affecting everybody. So karma is really like that. You could see that it's how you do something in a life affects so many people.
Yeah.
So it's really a choice. We choose these things. It's our soul. We don't choose it. Our soul does.
For you, is there a difference between a soul and a spirit?
I think the spirit is more like the personality, and the soul is more the whole thing. I think that the spirit is more of the personality part of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
You're
this
welcome.
interview. Where can our viewers find you if they want to learn more about your work,
your
channel?
Yeah, well, they could go to my website, albaweinman.com. That's where you can find everything. And I do have a YouTube channel that's watched all over the world. It's Alba Weinman. Just look for that. And there's hundreds of videos on there of my sessions, English and Spanish, because I do speak Spanish fluently. So for those of you who speak Spanish, you can see both of them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alba, for this interview.
You're welcome.
So, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here.
And I always like a hug.
Oh.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. So, definitely check out Alba's channel, and definitely stick around for part 2 because that will come out shortly. So, yeah, stay tuned, and thank you for coming on to the channel here.